Howdy folks, Dave Farmer Steve. Forgive the cheesy reference to Field of Dreams, but this is my Field of Dreams and hope to hit a home run. You can see we're standing in the popcorn, which is, if doing nothing else, growing real tall, real fast. I think it's going to start putting out tassels and ears pretty soon. I hope so, but because it is the middle of July, and if it doesn't do it soon, I'm sorry, this is the first week of August. If it doesn't do it soon, I don't think it's ever going to do it. But let's have a look around. Well, we had the 5th wettest July in the history of Cleveland, or at least down through recorded records. And this is where all the water ends up. I mean, it comes down off of the hill. This drains pretty well, but this is where it all goes. Now, you can see the difference in the height of some of this corn. Obviously, all planted at the same time. And, you know, the back rows where the soil is the poorest, and I think most of the water ends up, is not the hot setup. But I don't know, I got hope. Just don't know how productive this is going to be, but you never do. And we start getting some ears and tassels, I think it'll be okay. The popcorn's got to dry on the stalk for quite some time. It's got to be much drier than normal corn. So we need to get this on and set so it'll dry out before the winter gets real wet. Okay, so if we start going up the hill, we got one pumpkin plant, and I got one nice pumpkin on it, but just one. I mean, look at this thing. It's all the way to the back here, and it's all the way up here, and there is just one pumpkin set on, which I find strange. Now the rest of this is the butternut squash and cantaloupes, which this year is the first year in quite some time I've tried the cantaloupes. We have lots of squash. I mean, there's going to be probably 2 dozen or so of these guys set on. They're really growing nicely, and I think they're going to be, you know, just wonderful. The cantaloupes, I've got just as many cantaloupe plants as we do squash plants. They're the ones with the smaller leaves, like here. And you can see I got 1, 2, and there's I think a third one. Here's 3 cantaloupes right here that we got. I guess there's a few more that are starting to set on, but they're just now starting to set on, which I find strange because they had just as many flowers. Like, see, there's one right there, and we got plenty of bees and insects buzzing around. Just don't know why we don't have as many setting on, but we don't. And we got the tomatoes. With all of the rain and really lack of sun, I think we're about 2 weeks behind on the tomatoes, which is a shame because usually in August we start getting them. Now Carol's got some of her cherries that are doing okay. They're starting to produce, but the big boys here, not so much. But the green beans, holy cow. I picked these 2 or 3 times, and there's plenty going to be set on. I probably picked 5 pounds or so, I would guess. And if there's one vegetable that is probably the best bang for the buck, it's got to be green beans. I mean, you get a packet of seeds for $2. You plant it, they all come up. They require no effort, really, just a little water, and you just get prolific amounts of green beans off of them for quite some time. So really happy with how that's turned out. Now, here's just some pretty exciting stuff. You can see the cucumbers, and I've just picked the cucumbers, so I don't have many left. There's a few on here that are still, you know, letting them growing, because I've gotten quite a few, and I've made pickles out of them. But here is the the Mexican gherkins. Now you look at these things, that's on the vines, okay? They just grow up these little thin vines, and that's all the bigger they get right there. But you say, oh, there's hardly any. Oh, wait. Come around back, look at this. Look at them all. They just climb up the vines, and they're little tiny flowers, and they just keep going and going and going. Now, when they get about this big, you can pick them, and they're just adorable little things, and they taste cucumbery. Skins are a little tough, but if you were to throw a handful of these in your pocket for a hike, it's like having a little bottle of water with you. So the other thing that we have going, and I don't know, perhaps some of our other listeners have an opinion. This is my one best okra plant. So it's August 4th. That's all the bigger it is. I got another one back here, not doing so well. I don't think it can get enough sun. But, I mean, it's growing, but is it growing fast enough? Is it going to produce anything? Hard to say. Just have to let it go and find out. So, I've sprayed and thinned out all of these tomato plants. And I spray them with that, they call it brewer's carbonate or something like that, potassium carbonate, and it cuts down on the blight and fungus. Now, see, this started here, but it doesn't seem to be spreading. And what this does is, well, you spray it on, but unfortunately, being so water soluble, when it rains, it washes off. But and we had so much rain, but if I hadn't sprayed it, these would all be eaten up by now with this fungus. Also, some good news for the tomato: they have pierced the tomato canopy, so that's going to provide extra support and growing opportunity for tomatoes. And this stuff that grows on top of the canopy, much less susceptible to the blight. So that is some good news. Finally made it. Okay, one other, I thought was pretty interesting. I finally looked up what all this stuff was right here that just grows non-stop. You just can't seem to get it all out and get rid of it. And it is called common purslane, I guess, as opposed to uncommon purslane. And they say this is actually a cash crop somewhere. Can't imagine where. But I mean, if you take a piece of it and eat it, I mean, it doesn't taste like anything, but they show farmers markets with them selling this stuff. So if anybody wants to make a quick buck, boy, just get some purslane and you are in like Flint. Tomatillas are coming along nicely. They, if you remember, maybe you do or don't, they get these little like Japanese lanterns, and they're empty to begin with. They're hollow, and then the fruit, like that one, you can squeeze it. It just started. The fruit kind of grows into it. So some of these are getting ready to pick, but I mean, I leave this thing open. Nothing bothers the tomatillas. No critters get in there and eat them. No fungus gets on them and eats. It's just they're really, talk about a self-sufficient plant, and one that just gives you millions of tomatillas. So we'll be getting some Verde out of this for sure. Okay, Scott, so on the red buckeyes, you can see we have lots and lots of buckeyes, and they're not ready to pick yet. They're still developing. Some of them are quite small. Some of them are getting there, and the trick is get these before the squirrels and the chipmunks see them. But you're going to have lots more chances next year. Here's some of the harvest from a couple days ago. Now these cucumbers that grow goofy certainly aren't much to look at, but you slice them up for pickles or for cucumbers and sour cream and they're fine. And this is the big cloves of the garlic that I've saved, and we've gotten some small ones already. But like this guy right here is the biggest one. So this will probably go into planting next year's crop in September. And I'm told by my spiritual and menu advisor, Brian, that the biggest ones are the ones that continue to make big garlic cloves as opposed to little guys like this. So these will get eaten, and these will probably get planted. And so I had a request pour in about the status of the mushroom log. Well, here it is, and it's been just about a year, and you can see, I don't know, maybe something's starting to happen. We got a lot of lichen growing on it. Not seeing any shishito mushrooms, but I followed those instructions pretty well. I mean, this is a fresh log. This was only a couple weeks old. It's plugged at the right, intervals. It's off the ground. It's dark. We certainly had enough rain. It's damp, but nothing so far, so I'm thinking it's just not time yet. Okay, here's the deer screamers. That's what I call them. It's the ultrasonic repeller. And if you walk in front of it, the lights go off. This is the detector right here. And when the lights are on and they flash, and they make a series of ultrasonic sounds that scare the critters off. They seem to work. The problem is they don't have the range that's advertised. I know that's shocking for something, fine commercial product out of China. But they're solar powered. There's batteries in there that they charge up. Seem to work, seem to keep things away. Don't know how long they're gonna last durability wise, but for now I like them. Alright, this is the asparagus jungle. I mean, look at the size of some of these ferns. I mean, they are just, you have to stake them because they just go crazy. I think some of these are like 8-10 feet tall. I can't even untangle that one. It's all, they just are intertwined for a fare thee well. I've got all kinds of different modes of staking them up. I think they're about as tall as they're going to get. And I've got a few that have died that I'm going to have to, transplant some, like there's a space down there, and a couple others like over here. There's one that didn't make it. Well, I've got some other ones that I can transplant in there. Amazingly, I mean, occasionally you still get a spear that just, says, oh, okay, I'll give you a little bit more, but it's just one or two, so not enough to get excited about. Now, this row here are the famous, captured on film for your enjoyment, Christmas peppers. And they're starting to look like real peppers, and they're starting to produce. You can see some of the green chilies, the Anaheim. Some of these are getting ready to pick. They're almost big enough. So these are going to make it and produce. But here's the ones that I started from seed, and they're also doing very well. Then in that row, the jalapenos. I got jalapenos. I don't have any cilantro, and I don't have any tomatoes, so no pico de gallo yet. And then in the front row are the shishitos, and those are now starting to produce, and those are like, yeah, really kind of our favorites here for just throwing on the grill. And a couple minutes, you got nice tasty roasted pepper that you never know how hot they're going to be. Most of the time they're not too hot, but occasionally they are. Say, where is this? Yeah, that's all. That's it. That's all the bigger they get, but those are really good. So that is it, folks. And we will be giving you an update here probably sooner rather than later.